So this is question 20 in test 5, section 2 of the official SAT study guide. This is on page 643 in your book. So the question reads, when 15 is divided by the positive integer k, the remainder is 3. For how many different values of k is this true? Okay, so let's briefly go over what a remainder is. So we'll do that by coming up with a situation where we'd have a remainder. So if you had 24 divided by 7, for example, 7 can fit into 24 3 times. So then you multiply 7 times 3 to give you 21, and you have remainder 3. And I'll just give one more example. If you had 13 divided by 2, it could go in perfectly 6 times. And then 2 times 6 is 12, and your remainder would be 1. Okay, so this question's asking us something pretty strange, of course, because it is the last question in the section. So this is asking us, when we divide 15 by k, we get remainder 3. So it means there's 3 left over. So that means that this number that we get up here will multiply times k to give us a number that's 3 less than 15. So it could multiply to give us perfectly 12. Or it could also be any of the factors of 12. So one way to go about doing this problem is to just test out the first few positive integers, and that will certainly be clarifying and show you some information. But I would recommend trying out the factors of 12. I also recommend just getting rid of numbers that divide perfectly into 15. So let's think about that. There are some numbers early on in the positive integers that perfectly divide into 15. So when a number divides perfectly into 15, the remainder will be 0. So 1, for example, divides perfectly into 15. 1 times 15 is 15, so that's not an option. The next number that divides perfectly in 15 is 3. And the next number after that that divides perfectly in is 5. And then, of course, 15 will divide perfectly into 15. So now we have a very small list of numbers that we even need to test out because k needs to be less than 15. Okay, so the answers that you get are going to be factors of 12. But let's just plug in numbers and see what happens. So 2 divided into 15 can fit into 15 7 times, but it gives us just a remainder 1. So that's not an option because we're looking for remainder 3. 3 we know doesn't work. 4 should work because it is a factor of 12. So 4 times 3 is 12, which gives us remainder 3. So 4 is one of our options. 12 will also be one of our options because 12 divided into 15 goes in 1 time and gives us remainder 3. So we know 4 and 12 are options. So we know A is out. Then we should also test out other factors of 12. We know 5 doesn't work because it goes perfectly into 12. Let's see what happens with 6. It should work because it is a factor of 12. Six times 2 gives us 12, which gives us remainder 3. So 6 also works. 7 is not going to work, and one way you could find that out is just by looking at the fact that 7 divided into 15 is going to give you remainder 1, just like 2 divided into 15 gave you remainder 1. And then 8 is probably not going to work because it's not a factor of 12. And you could just test it out if you want to be sure. It's only going to go in once, and it'll give you remainder 7. 9, now we're just getting to situations where the numbers can only go in 1 time. And then the remainder is just the difference between 15 and the number. So 9's not going to work because the remainder is not 3. Ten can go in one time, but that will give you remainder 5. So you have a pretty good idea that you're done because you already accounted for 12. But let's just continue. So you could check your answers. And actually the next few are just going to go almost in order. So 11 into 15 will give you remainder 4. So these are just going to be decreasing. And this would be where 12 is divided into 15. So 11 divided into 15 will go in once. And it'll give you remainder 4, so that doesn't work. $12 we know works because we've tested that one out. 13 will give you remainder 2. 14 will give you remainder 1. And 15 will divide perfectly into itself. So then you're done because you can't divide a number higher than 15 into 15 and get a remainder. So then we're pretty confident in our answer, which we really were once we figured out that the answers were the factors of 12 that don't perfectly divide. That's why 3 is not an option, because 3 times 5 perfectly gives us 15. So our answer is 3.